And that should be the same with theater, is that it's a piece of time that's happening right before you. Yes, we know there's a writer and there's a director and there's costumers, but amazing theater, it should look as if it's just happening right then and there for the first time.
Hello, my name is Eline Perez and you're listening to Are You an Artist? Today's episode is with Glenn Griffin, who speaks about writing plays, directing musicals, and The Mysterious Man. To discover who the Mysterious Man is, you have to listen to this wonderful episode. Trigger warning, Glenn speaks fast, and I have been told that I speak fast too, so don't hesitate to slow down the pace. You can adjust the speed on most platforms. Enjoy! Dear Glenn, I have wanted to interview you for a while, but I wanted to make sure that I knew more about what you do. Now I've read 2 plays you wrote, I've seen The Bear Proposal, a Chekhov play you directed, and I have become a huge fan of your work. You are a theater director, a playwright, a wonderful manager, and I read somewhere that you tried veterinary technology.
I did, yes. How did you know that? Yes. Yeah, I used to do that, yeah.
You are also a book lover with very good taste.
Oh, thank you.
I wish we had a full day podcast because you are extremely interesting and funny, which is very important. Let's start with the first question.
Sure.
Glenn, are you an artist?
Am I an artist? I want to say yes, but there's something always in my soul that makes me think, am I an artist? What I do is that art, but then I also feel, and this is so cheesy, but I feel just because what we create is something we put out into the universe and it's a part of our soul, that no matter what it is art. Because I don't ever set out to create something that I'm going to be like, oh, this is art. This is going to change the world and people are going to just weep when they see this or laugh and cry. I always just try to bring truth out and to have people look at the world through my eyes, but at the same time to kind of hold a mirror up to the world and say, hey, this is what I think is going on in this world. And maybe we need to fix some things or embrace some things or embrace our differences or argue more or cry more or laugh more. So yes, I want to say I'm an artist and I wish that I could be like, I'm an artist. But there's that, it's like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That you're like, am I an artist? Do I suffer enough? Do I walk the streets at night, just crying for my art? And no, I don't. I wish I did more, that I could be like, I'm like Van Gogh. I'm like, I'm tormented, but
then you'd be dead.
But then I would be dead and earless. So yes and no. Yes, I do think I'm an artist, but I wish I could stand proudly and say I'm an artist. It's just that ego thing in my soul that doesn't let me do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you an artist?
Yeah, I think so. Just because I like to create stuff.
Yeah.
Even like stupid things.
That's what I mean is that is art. No matter what it is, we've put something of ourselves into this world. And whether people love it, if people don't see it, it's still art.
Have you had people who hated your work?
Oh, yeah. I had a whole community. I directed a play one time called The Most Fabulous Story Ever Told, and I had like 20 Christians picketing outside of it before we even opened. So the whole play it's a great play. It's an amazing, amazing play. And it's a look at the Bible through the story of Adam and Steve and Jane and Mabel. So it looks at a homosexual point of view of the Bible. So the first act is a replaying of kind of the Old Testament through this kind of like biblical, funny, comedic version. And then the second act, it is modern day. And these characters have been kind of using this Bible to look at how one of them is dying. But the Catholic Church went crazy because there's one part at the end of Act 1 where the character of, God, I can't remember if it's Jane or Mabel, but one of them gets blessed by the stage manager, who is God in this play, and she has a child. And they were saying, you're saying that Mary is a lesbian. You're saying Mary's a lesbian. And so we had a woman with, I would say, a 4-foot Mary holding it outside with like a veil over her head. And they were picketing and crying. And the only thing it did was make me want to do the show more, because I really had faith in it. I never did it because I thought it was ever going to be controversial or this is going to anger people. I thought it's a beautiful piece, and I still do. I have the script. I'll give it to you to read. It's really a beautiful, beautiful piece, and it really is God affirming and religion affirming. And my parents are religious. They're not crazy religious, but they're religious. And I knew I would never do something that would insult them. I was raised Catholic. And I do think it's important that we need to look at these kind of things of like religion and God and worship and why we need something like that, if we need it, something like that in our lives to make it complete. You know, I have faith. I believe there's something else. I don't know what it is. I don't believe that there's some mythical God standing above us wanting to curse us and damn us or help us. I think that we have to make these things happen for ourselves. But I do think it's something that does make this world go round. I mean, people fight wars over religion and kill and love. And I think that it is important that we look at this. And that's why I thought it was a very important piece. But to have people outside just damning me, and I would get emails being like, you're going to hell, your parents are going to die grisly deaths because of this play. And it did upset me. It really did. It was a show that I was doing with my partner, Chris. And he did say, do we want to cancel it? I'm like, no, I'm determined we're going to do this because it is a great piece. It really is really great. And what it did was amazing publicity, and we sold out every night. And what was really good, too, is that people were saying later on that it was a good piece. And it wasn't just selling out simply because people were coming to see what the controversy was, but they were leaving being like, actually, yeah, this was a really great piece of theater. And what angered me the most is that the people picketing hadn't even read it. They hadn't even seen it. They had just gotten wind that we were doing it, and that was it. They didn't know anything of what it was about at all. Nothing at all. And that angered me the most. If you come in and you see it and it angers you that much when seeing it, okay, then stand outside. Because
fair enough.
Exactly. But if you have no clue, if someone told you, oh, this is a bad show, why? You haven't seen it. You have no clue what it is even about. And my parents came to see it. And like I said, they're religious. And I think my father was very leery of it. But he did. And I was always lucky. My parents were great supporters of mine.
That's great.
I started as an actor, and my mother used to take me to auditions in New York City when I was like 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And she was always...
Auditions for like plays?
For plays and musicals. Yeah, I was never interested in film. I think because I'm naturally big when I talk and when I move, like my face is just, it makes expressions and everything, and I never could calm it down enough for film. I was always like too big for TV. But theater was fine. So yeah, I would audition for plays and mostly musicals. I did a lot of musicals when I was young. And then I went to university for acting. I went to UNC Charlotte, and it was a very open university where if you were studying acting, you did that, but you had to do everything else as well. So you had to do lighting, you had to do props, you had to do sets.
That's really good.
Oh, it was, yeah. And because at first I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I just want to act. I don't care what I don't want to care about box office. But it really made me respect everything.
Yeah.
And love everything. And to also go, you know what? I do love telling stories and I love directing. And so I got to try these things out. And I still was very interested in theater, and that was what I thought in acting, I thought that was going to be my thing I was going to do. But then as I went along, I was like, you know what? I really love directing. I want to kind of create the story. I have a script, let me form it, and to create it. And then I moved on to playwriting, that I was like, now I want to do everything. I want to tell the story and all. So, yeah.
And when you write a play, how does it work? Do you have an initial idea? Do you sit down? Or...
I spend a lot of time daydreaming. I do. I have an initial idea. And like most recently, this show I shared with you, Sirius, had this idea that I wanted to look at the world through a dog's point of view. I had been working and I took a year off that I wanted to create art. So I stopped working and thankfully for the love and support of my partner I wasn't working. And so I was deciding that I was going to write and I was going to put my hand at freelancing and directing and all. And, it's hard. It can be so hard. And it can be so it's all time consuming. And yet at the same time, you feel so alone because you're just like creating in your own little bubble. Do you know what I mean?
And so you would start to write and then do you make people read?
So like I said, I daydream for a long time. So I come up with situations and I'm saying, oh, if this happens, what about this? How about this? Then I would sit down with like you and I would say, what do you think about this? What do you think about this topic? Is it interesting to you? Is it something? And then I might give you a scene or 2 scenes or 3 scenes. And then once I have the whole thing written, which usually for me, because I've been daydreaming and writing notes down for so long, it doesn't take me long to write the whole thing.
Okay.
Usually it takes about maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month, because I've been really writing it for so long in little notes, and I have like so many crazy notes on my phone, and
it comes together like that.
It all comes together, and sometimes I move things around, like this monologue actually works better here in this scene, and then I get people together to read it. And I just say, hey, just what do you think? Do you understand it? Where should I go from here? What should I do? What do you think of the characters? And from there, a lot of times things will really change a lot. Like when I had the first reading of Sirius.
Montageline, I asked Glenn to write a summary of Sirius because we mention it several times during this episode. This is the last play Glenn wrote, and I read it. So here it is, just for you, a brief introduction of Sirius, which you can also find in the notes of the podcast. At its heart, Sirius is a 2-act theatrical fairy tale, the exploration of the human experience through the eyes of a dog. Sirius isn't an average dog, though. Some say his father was a stray Alsatian, others a retriever as black as the night sky. Still others don't believe that any such dog ever existed, and that Sirius's mother had never been with a male dog in her life. That Sirius was simply conceived. No matter his patronage, Sirius is born on the same day, at the same second, as his human owner's daughter, Allison. Being raised together, it's soon discovered that Sirius can think and reason and speak as any person would. And as he grows older, he questions his place and reason for existing in a world where his place is to sit, stay, and heal at his master's command. Together, Sirius and Allison explore love, loss, sexuality, family, religion, and physical desire, together while reevaluating what it means to be an animal and human.
When I had the first reading of Sirius, it was a 2-person show. So Sirius, the male character, played the dog the whole time, and the woman, who was Allison, played everybody else. And so a lot of people who read it, they were like, I really see what you're trying to do, and that's really interesting, but it's taking away from their relationship. And it's taking away from us understanding who these other people are, and it's almost too much.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay. And then I started thinking more about it. And with the play, I really wanted to look at taboo and unconditional love and sex and the sexes and gender. And so I said, well, what if I had another character who was really this anybody's, who was non-binary and was someone that Allison was in love with, who then also, she's telling the story to, who could then play everybody else as well. So I added them, and I think that it works really well for the story. And there's some great scenes that I felt like I had to take out that just didn't bring the plot along. And it's always sad when you're like, oh, I love this scene and this is a great scene, but it just doesn't progress the plot.
Yeah.
So you have to take it out for the good of the show.
And what I also really liked, because it's very simple, it's very clear in a way. There's quite a lot, like it can be very deep.
Yeah.
And a lot of layers that you can play with also as a reader. But it's very simple in a way.
And I really wanted to play a lot with storytelling because I'm a big reader and I love when people can just tell a story. And when we're young, we're told these fairy tales, these stories that are very simple, yet they really did always have teaching lessons in them, you know?
Yeah.
Don't go in the forest at night, you're going to be eaten. Don't do this, don't do that, you know? And so I did a lot of research and went up to Wales and met with farmers and really watched sheepdogs and sheep. And really to feel this community and to feel that it was timeless in a way. Because I was always curious, where do I set this play? Is it in the past? Is it in the present day? And I said, oh, it's just in no time. It's now, it's fairly present, but I felt when I was up there and I was alone on like a mountain just looking out, I was like, this could be 1800 for all I know.
Yeah.
And the whole play is so much about nature and animals and animal instincts and all this. So I really felt that I was never going to say when it was. And I really tried my best to not have a lot of technology, because it could be anytime.
Yeah, which is also very nice because sometimes you read like books from ages ago and you can still identify to the characters, and that is very freeing.
It really is, and that's a lot of my work that I do write is adapting like older plays or books or anything for a modern audience. And so I will take like one I've been working on for a little while is Ibsen's A Dollhouse, because I love the idea of gay marriage and because we can, do we have to get married and all this kind of stuff, and the role of the sexes in a relationship and in a coupling. And so using a show that was written in the 1800s and to make it something that's very modern. And that's why classics live so long, because they just are timeless in a way.
Yeah. And even if you look at history, like sometimes we repeat stuff that was very actual in the past. And
oh, yeah. I mean, that's like we take care of history because we're just going to repeat it again. And we just keep doing that, which is just, you'd think we would learn. We just don't learn. That's the sad. And that's why I think artists are so important, because we're holding a mirror up and we're saying, come on, look at the world. This is, let's take a look at this. And we're showing it to you in ways people can accept, because you can watch dance or you can see a painting or you can see a play. And a lot of times it's harmless in a way, but it's making you think.
Yes, exactly.
Because I think if you go in someone's face and you're like, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, they get very defensive and they back away and they don't want to listen. But if they're watching a piece of dance and you're putting all of that in bodies and movement and what you're trying to say, a lot of times people will be like, oh, wow, yeah, I never thought of that. That's really, and they're more accepting of it and willing to come to our side.
Come.
Yes, come to our side.
We are so nice.
I know, yes, come to the dark side.
So now with this piece, Sirius,
yes.
What's the next step?
So the next step is I do want to direct it. I want to bring it to life now on stage.
That'd be great.
So yeah, thank you. And so I'm looking at probably in September, October of next year. So I'm working in a space called Libra, which is a theater cafe in Camden. So I'll be directing there for this season coming up, about 6 shows.
The whole season?
For the whole season, yes.
Oh, wow.
So starting in January, so I'm putting together a season of shows, mostly like 2 or 3 handers, because it's not, you've seen it, it's not a huge space.
Yeah.
But it's great because it's very immersive. And I love that it holds 30 people as an audience, because I love that it's a small space, so you really feel like you're really in there. And looking at September of doing it in that space and really, because I want the set to be very wood and very simple, but I also want a lot of projections and everything. So it needs some work, but I think, it's going to be fun to play with and a little scary, because I've never directed one of my own pieces.
Oh, wow.
No, never. I love to have someone else do it, because I really feel theater, any art for the most part, is such a collaborative thing that I really love to have someone else's point of view as well, not just my own. But I think I'm just going to use my own for this one. I'm going to trust my own gut and go with it. But then I collaborate with the actors as well. And I really think that's so important, because they really do have so many great things to say. Yeah. And I always say that, as a director, I may have the final word, but you probably know your character or everything much more than I do, even if I wrote it. And so you'll have some input and make me go, I never thought of that. Like we were having rehearsal the other day and I had directed this whole scene, and one of the actresses said, what about this? I might be thinking this one thought. And I was like, wow, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. I never thought of that. And it works really, really well. And I know some directors would be like, no. That's not how I wanted it. That's not how I saw it. No, this is my vision. But for me, I feel like I try to be really in rehearsal room, really, really open. Someone has to eventually say, okay, this is what we're doing. And they have to create it. But I do like to be very open and allow a lot of play in the rehearsal room and allow a lot of experiment and laugh. And sometimes we just talk about things and then we're like, okay, let's do it. I try to be very focused, but also make it an area where you feel very safe.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which is very clever, because then the actors carry the piece in a way. So giving them the space also to...
Exactly, because I do always want it to be coming from them as well. I don't want it to always be that they are just doing something because I told them to do it. I want it to be that it's coming from their soul and their heart and coming out and filling the stage. Because I think then you make very realistic, honest characters. That it's not just Glenn told me to do this, hence, like you'll see a lot of plays, like you'll see...
Glenn said.
Yeah, exactly. Glenn said to do this, so we will do it. But you see a lot of sometimes, where it comes to more, some theaters where they'll be doing a production of Les Miserables, and they really are just recreating the West End production on stage. And that's not, I mean, you don't know why the original director did what he did to be doing that. So you're just kind of, it's like taking
copying something.
You're just copying something.
Yeah.
And then it's like a photocopy. It's never as good as the original.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine and it gets by, but it's never as good as the original. And I think that's the same thing. If I told you, if I was directing you and I said, do this, and you're like, well, why? And I'm like, well, just do it because I told you to. There's no reasoning behind it.
Yeah. That's why I really struggled with dance and like just learning steps. Because also my body was not accepting it. Right. You know, I was like, no, painful.
Yeah, exactly. No. You know, I just feel like you need to know why you're doing it.
And the good teachers were like the ones speaking about gravity and playing with your weight and understanding how the joints help you do this. And then it's really interesting.
Right. And then you go and you're like, okay, yeah, and now I see why my body curves this way or why I'm doing it. And then it really is like if you watch an amazing piece of dance, it's like they're just doing it as they're making it up as they go along.
Yeah.
And that should be the same with theater, is that it's a piece of time that's happening right before you. And it should be as if, you know, yes, we know there's a writer and there's a director and there's costumers, but amazing theater, it should look as if it's just happening right then and there for the first time. And that's what I love. And I think that if everything is a piece of collaboration, I think that it can become that, definitely. I think it's very important. I do. That's why I like it to be a piece of theater to be as honest. No matter how absurd it is or how bizarre, it should be as honest as possible. And that you walk away being like, I believe that. If Sirius is a talking dog and falls in love with a woman and all this in my new play, you believe it because in that world, it's true. It's true. And there's never any joking about it. There's never any like, oh, this is so bizarre. You know, no, it's all true and it just happens.
They do that sometimes. I remember seeing in plays like...
Yeah, where it's like, this is real, you know, but, and you know, I think when you watch it, you feel this isn't real. Yeah. They don't believe it. You know, if you did a play that takes place on Mars and you have aliens, all this kind of stuff, if the actors are truly creating a world that you believe, you'd be like, yeah. I mean, you see amazing sci-fi movies or horror, and you're like, I believe this. I totally believe it because they're invested. They've created a world where it is truth. And that's always what I try to create. You know, it's hard. It's hard sometimes because you do work on a piece and it maybe is hard to get the actors on board with you sometimes. But I feel like as a director, I always try to get it across. And sometimes actors are a little leery about that. They want to just be told what to do and to be like, okay, why do I stand here? Like, again, my partner, Chris, he's an actor. And I direct him every once in a while, and I'll say to him, and he hates it, I'll say, so why? Why are you doing this? Why is the character doing this? And he's just tell me. Just tell me why. And I'm like, no, you need to, why are you doing it? Why are you saying this? Why are you, you know, feeling this way? And he's just tell me. I'm going to fail the quiz. Just tell me. And that, it does drive me crazy because you're like, I want it to come from you. I don't want it to be because I said so. Because I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong. Yeah. I might be having the wrong impression of this moment in a play, you know, and so I wanted to see if it's coming from you.
Wow, yeah.
You know, so yeah, he drives me crazy. He is the worst kind of actor because he's a great actor, but he's a lazy actor, and that drives me crazy. Yeah, he won't memorize his lines until 2 days before the show goes into like tech rehearsals, and I'm like, yeah. But then also he does what I hate is he can memorize a whole play in literally like an hour.
Okay, that's not me. Yeah.
No, me neither. No, oh God. I think that's one of the reasons I stopped wanting to be an actor is that it takes me forever to memorize lines. I don't know why. I think my brain is just like, there's too much in it. I think I have so much useless information in my brain that
you can use for your daydreaming and writing down stuff.
Exactly. I wish sometimes I could be like a computer and just delete some information. Because the other day, like yesterday, I was cleaning the house and in the musical Evita, I literally sang every line from the beginning of the musical all the way through. Just like nothing was playing. It was just me singing and going through every single song on the soundtrack, on the cast album. And I was like, Glenn, why do you know this? I'm like, this is amazing yet sad, and you know, but Evita is one of my favorite musicals. But
that's so funny.
It really is just like I'm like, oh wow, and then it made me go, I really need to direct this again. I really love this.
How is it to direct a musical? Because you need choreographers.
That's
songwriter.
you need. So when you get like a musical, so if you're doing a musical that is already written, you need your musical director, you need your choreographer, you need your costumer, all this, and it's a much bigger project because you rely on a lot more people hopefully being on the same page you are. And so it does take a lot of interviewing of people. Like, so say if I was wanting to work with you as a choreographer, I would have seen some of your work before and I'd be like, ooh, I love the way you make bodies work. And so I would go with that and say, okay, this is what I'm envisioning for this musical. What do you think? And so if we're on the same page, then I would say like, okay, yeah, let's take this journey together. Let's work on it. And some of the things you might change it. You might be like, well, I actually think this might work. What about this? And so we would always have those conversations. But it should be that you trust somebody else as a choreographer. I mean, I've worked with choreographers who I barely knew, and we were not on the same page. And it was really hard because I didn't have enough faith to let them just kind of experiment, where then I kind of became a little bit more of a dictator saying, nope, this is what I want. This is what I want exactly. Just do this.
Yeah.
Which I don't like, because it's also, what fun is it for you? If you're the choreographer and I'm telling you what to do, you're not creating anything. You're literally just parroting.
Following and the instructions.
Yeah. So how could you then leave that piece being like, oh, I created something? You're like, oh yeah, you did, but not really. And I don't know how artistically you would be fulfilled. So then a musical, yeah, it's just hard because I love a musical. And what I love to do, and I did a lot when I had my theater company in Charlotte, is take a big musical, like say Evita, and it's usually a cast of 20, and to scale it down and to make it be like maybe 8 or 9 people. And so you have this huge musical that's now a chamber piece, and I would do it in like a small studio theater.
Wow.
And it makes it work on such a different level because it's not about the spectacle, it's not about all the special effects and all this kind of stuff. It's about the people. And then you go, oh, okay, this musical is really about Eva Perón and what she was going through in her life. And you're hearing the music because you're not just in this huge cavernous theater. I directed about maybe 7 or 8 musicals and just really did that, just always scaling it down and really making it. Usually, again, the pieces I love to direct are about people. And they're really, they're always about people. They're humans, but it's about the human journey and really looking at them and what makes them tick. I love people. I think that's why I love customer service. Like we work at Wilton's, and I love it because I love watching the people, no matter how crazy or amazing or mysterious man who I love, who will one day be a character in a play I write.
Montage Eline, the mysterious man sometimes comes to our workplace for a drink, and we call him mysterious because he's pale and always wears sunglasses. He does not speak much, and everyone wonders, who is this person? What's his life?
Because I'm just fascinated by him. And I think sometimes I just watch him and I'm afraid that he looks at me like I'm a stalker. And because I want to sit down with him and just be like, why? Why do you just come in here?
Why the glasses?
Why the glasses? Why are you inside wearing sunglasses?
Why Amstel?
And why Amstel? Though now he has moved to Bitburger, which is very strange.
Maybe there is a change in his life.
Maybe. I think that you need to interview him.
A questioning.
Yes, you need to interview because he looks like what I would imagine. He's an artist. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah. He's a like dramatic, tortured artist. Yes,
exactly. That's how I think my soul wants to look. I want to walk in a rainy Paris, with, walking along and then but it's also like my image of an artist is, probably from the 1800s, and there's like flickering gas lamps, and I'm walking around with a long trench coat, being like, I'm creating art.
Yeah, but I had the same problem. I wanted to be a mysterious person and stuff. I tell everybody everything about my life.
What? Yeah.
Like, it's just out there, and I have no secret, and I'm so transparent.
It's where you and I are very much alike. I'm just there. I have no secrets. I'll tell you anything that's going on in my life and make a joke about it and everything. So, yeah. So
people, but why then did you try veterinary technology?
I do love animals. So I had graduated from university and I needed a job because acting, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a southern town in the US. And it has a lot of theater, and it actually was a really great area for theater, but I needed a job. I needed to make money. And so I started working as a receptionist at a veterinary hospital. And I really liked it. And they were like, oh, are you interested in maybe assisting, like being an assistant to the veterinarian? I was like, yeah, sure. So I did that. And then I went back and I got my degree in veterinary technology, which then made me a dog and cat nurse.
What is that? Is it like technology for dogs?
So it's like assisting with surgery. It is like I did dentals on dogs and cats, and like so if they you're making sure their anesthesia is okay, or if they're in the hospital, you're making sure their IVs are properly in and they're getting the right medications, and if anything happens, it's just like being a nurse for a human, but for animals.
Wow.
But the harder part is that they can't tell you what is wrong, and so you have to
guess.
You have to kind of just figure out from all the signs and symptoms, and you're really helping the veterinarian a lot. I loved it. It didn't fulfill me artistically at all, but it was another part of me that I really was very passionate about. And that, because I love animals because they just want us to love them and to love us. And I think that does reflect a lot in Sirius, is that looking at the world through an animal, through a dog who just wants to understand the world and wants to be a part of it and love someone. I have my own dog, Garlic. So when I did take that time off, I was with him a lot, and I was really watching him a lot and the way that he would look at me. And I was just thinking, what are you thinking? Like, what's going on in your head? Because I do think, they have basic thoughts.
Yeah.
And I do think, I'm like, what is it? Like, what do you, because sometimes he would just stare at me and I'm like, what? What is it? And that really was the first idea of like, what if he could talk? What would he say?
Wow, yes.
What would he like? What would he be? Because also we do everything in front of our animals. We're naked. We have sex.
We go to the toilet.
We go to the toilet. Everything in front of them. And I'm waiting one day for Garlic to be like, don't go to the toilet in front of me anymore. But then I'm like, well, you do when you go outside. So, but or is there the way that they see the world totally much more, I guess we would say, animalistic, that it's very base.
Yeah.
And that's where sometimes I think as humans, we try to deny our animal side.
Yes.
Which we do have.
Yes.
Where we're very passionate. And I think sometimes, going back to artists, I think artists can be very animalistic, that we go with our gut passions and our base natures, and we smoke and we drink coffee and we, everything that is very baseline because we want to experience all of these emotions and pleasures and passions and to then expel it in our artwork. And I think that animals are the same in some ways. Like my dog will eat until he explodes, which in some ways is like me. I would as well. I have to watch what I eat. That's, yeah. But yes, I love veterinary medicine and I would do it again. But then I also, like I said, I love customer service. And that's kind of what made me go to Wilton's to work, because I love Wilton's and I love the shows that they do. But I also love working with people like behind it. Like
people are so cool there.
Oh yeah, they really are. Yeah. They're really, really, really great. And that inspires me as well. And it also makes me go, oh, I really want to work with some of these people. I love watching my friends create as well and experiencing their stuff. And it inspires me as well.
Yeah.
Really, that's why I don't think we can't create in a bubble, even though a lot of times that is creation, unfortunately, is being on your own. But that's why I do want to be out and meting with people at Wilton. Yeah,
you probably need a bit of both, like witnessing people and going out, and also then taking time on your own to have your brain do what it does.
Exactly, yeah, because you kind of need that time where your brain can just, vomit everything out onto the paper. Because that's always feel like when I write, I literally write everything that I'm thinking, and then I'll go back. I won't self-edit myself because I think that is detrimental. And that's why I save every version of what I wrote, because there were times that I used to delete things and I'd be like, oh, no, that monologue was so great. I want to put it here, but I don't have it anymore. And I can't recreate it. Yeah, I was working on a musical version of Wuthering Heights based on the book. And I wrote this one song for the character of Isabel, the lyrics. I wasn't writing the music because I can't write music at all, but I was writing the lyrics. And I just thought it was so great. And I gave it to the person who was writing the music. And they were like, yeah, but I don't think it works. This is, I just kind of then tossed it to the side and everything. And later on, they were like, actually, let's go back to that. And I was like, it's gone. I don't have it. And I deleted it. And that was my own early stupidity. So I learned. And so I had saved, like if I showed you on my computer, I have probably like in like 50, 60, 70 versions, drafts of Sirius.
Oh,
Just
wow.
because there's always a line that I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this line works. Let me look to see what I wrote. Or any of the other shows that I wrote. I have so many drafts of. But then also I have things that I feel maybe didn't work in that show, but might work in a different show.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
and go back to it.
Do you have inspirations or recommendations of books, for example?
Books.
After buying 10 books?
Yeah, right now I'm going through a period where I love reading and I love classics and biographies, but I also love trash. And I really do. Like right now, I am reading this book called The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is a gay romance novel. And it's actually really good. Wow. I really like it because I do like sometimes very light reading and all. But I really also want to pick up The Artist's Way. Have you ever heard of it?
I heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I really want to pick that up because but I would love to get a group together and read it and go through it because I really heard that it's really such a great inspirational piece to work on to like help create art and all. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, we should all get together and do that. Definitely.
So little random questions.
Yes.
Do you prefer silence or small talk?
Silence. I do. I'm not a good small talker. I just kind of like...
That's true. You never talk about the weather.
No, I don't know.
I like that.
It's England. It's gray, pretty much. No. But no, I'm not a small talker. And like I hate when I did have hair, I hated going to get my hair cut because I hate when the hairdresser is like talking to you and I'm like, oh God, please don't talk to me about this. Do you know? And maybe that's awful because it's cutting off someone who I can be like, oh, I could meet this person and learn from this person. But I just hate small talk. I would rather silence and then talk about something that is really pressing. And I'm not saying it has to be something serious, but it's something that is, important to you and to me. And then, because I think even, behind the bar, we'll talk about silly, crazy things. But it's not just like, so how's politics today? Even though politics are important. But, I'm not a small talker at all. I would rather just be silent. But I think a lot can be said in silence as well.
Yes.
That you get. And that's why I do in a lot of my plays, I'll have a lot of moments of silence.
Oh, wow.
Because I think it's uncomfortable sometimes, or you can learn a lot from people, or just how people handle silence and pauses. I'm a big pause person in plays. Yeah, I like silence.
Do you like to go to the supermarket?
I love to shop. So even if it is for groceries, I do like to shop. But for the supermarket, I'm a get in and get out person. Unless I am going to somewhere like Lidl, where I love to look at the stuff in the middle of Lidl and to see like all the things that you don't need, but they're suggesting that you do, So I do love all that, but I love a sale. I do love a good sale. Like the other day I was at the gym and I went into Iceland and they had buy 2 Ben & Jerry's pints of ice cream, get one free. And I did. And I don't need it because my waist doesn't need it, but it was a deal. It was a sale, and so it convinced me. So I do love
that also.
So
I feel so rich. Then I'm like, oh,
exactly.
I've saved that much money.
I've saved that much. Well, you would have saved more if you hadn't bought it at all. But then you're like, well, I got best of both worlds. I saved money, and I'm going to eat this delicious chocolate fish food ice cream, which is my favorite ice cream.
If you could have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be?
I would love to have dinner with Lord Byron, who was a poet. He was like a romantic poet, and he was really one of the very first, almost like you would look at as like a rock star of poetry world. And they said that he was like big, bad, and dangerous to know. And he was in the romantic era. And I love his poetry, and he was just sexual, and he would write these amazing diaries, and he had an affair with his own like half sister, and he bedded men and women all over Europe and everything. And I would just love to sit down with him and just talk, because that kind of person does fascinate me. Because I guess I love people who grasp onto their own sexual nature and just really, and I think that does then present itself in their writing and their artwork and their dance, like Nureyev, the dancer.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, I love watching videos of him dance because I think it's so sexual and so just the body. And that's when you go, wow, the way that our bodies could move and to tell a story. And that's why I do love some dance. I mean, I love all dance, but I love a lot more modern and some, because I do love the way you can just kind
It's
of
very free.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't love rigid lines. Like some ballet I'm there for, but I don't like rigidity.
Yeah.
I love seeing people be free and move their bodies and roll on the ground and
Yeah.
So I would say yes. I would love to talk with Lord Byron because I think he's an amazing poet, and I think that it would probably be a really interesting evening.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you have one day to live, what do you do?
That's such an interesting question. I think I would just hang out with friends. I'd get a pint at the pub and just... I don't think I would jump out of a plane, and I wouldn't climb Mount Everest. I think that I would just want to be surrounded by friends and be like, hey, let's just chat and enjoy ourselves. And then hopefully I'm just going to go to bed and not wake up. Because I don't want to do that. I'm hit by a bus. Death. Yeah, I just want a nice smooth death. I don't want to be hit by a bus or, fall out of a plane. But I would want to be around friends and just have a good time, have a laugh, maybe do some karaoke. Maybe just
karaoke, okay.
Yeah, just to do some singing, just have fun. That's for me. I love a good laugh. I feel like I have a dark sense of humor, and I love also when people can make me laugh. That's really because it's also, I think it's such a sign of intelligence is that you can make someone laugh because it's just really. And I love to find the funny sides of even the worst because that's life. Finding the humor even in the worst moments. Like when people laugh when someone is dying or anything, you're like, yeah, that's life.
Yeah, it makes you go through, I think, and maybe process emotions also.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that you go through all the emotions because, you cry so much that you just have to laugh and all that. So, yeah, I would just want to be around friends and really just have a fun day, drink some, gossip, just laugh.
Talk about the mysterious man.
Everything. And then go home, hopefully just lie down in my bed and go to sleep and
goodbye.
Yeah, just bye. That's my dream death is to just fall asleep.
Okay, well, if anyone is listening.
Please, if the Grim Reaper is listening, please. Because, I think I was saying to you one time is that, I'm always when I'm in a plane, and I don't mind flying, but if I'm in a plane, I always think we're too high. We don't need to be this high. We really don't, and that's always, because I would just be like, because everyone's like, oh, it must be awful to crash at a plane. I'm like, yeah, but for me, it's the 3 minutes before you go down.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh God.
That.
You just know it's happening.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. No, so I don't want to know. I just let it happen out of the blue and yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful end.
Yeah. Thank you.